It is JN and JA here on the College Countdown. Josh Neighbors, Jack Allen here with another Wednesday edition where we kick around the big topics in college football. Some big news today. The College Football Playoff Selection Committee, they're using enhanced metrics. Watch out. They've done some enhancement on these. We'll get into that. Also, Auburn is kind of a case of not buyer's remorse. Well, maybe some buyer's remorse in there too. But what happens when you lead to one season, when you build to one season and maybe that season doesn't quite shake out the way you wanted to? All that and more coming up on the show today. I am Josh Neighbors. He is Jack Allen. You can find us on Twitter. I am at Josh Neighbors _ and the show is at CC Podcast JN. Jack, they can find you
at Jack Allen TV.
At Jack Allen TV. And then also find this show wherever y'all get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Like the video, sub to the channel. All that stuff helps. And tell your friends. Leave a comment. So, Jack, college football playoff changes. We got these today. And I'll read from Heather Dinich here at ESPN. The College Football Playoff Selection Committee will announce its first 6 rankings on November 4th using enhanced metrics to help evaluate schedule strength, and how teams perform against their slate. Let's see. In the current schedule strength metric, more weight will now be applied to games against strong opponents. A new added metric of record strength, which, I mean, didn't we have strength of record?
Yes, but I'm pretty sure the whole idea here is that they're basically kind of skewing how that data or how that algorithm works. Like, you used to get a certain amount of points for playing against a more difficult team, and now it's weighted in such a way that the more difficult team you play, the more benefit you have and the less it costs you when you lose. And so it's not necessarily that we're adding a new metric, it's that we're changing how that metric is calculated and putting more weight to playing bigger, stronger teams. The problem is that whenever you play in a league like the SEC, that number's gonna get skewed, and then because the number's been skewed, it's gonna skew further and further and further because the stronger teams are only playing the stronger teams, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like if you're an SEC team and you play against another SEC team, you get stronger by winning. They don't drop as much by losing. So then whenever someone else plays this SEC team, they're still rated highly because they're not going to drop because they're only playing highly rated teams. And then everyone's numbers keep getting inflated and boosted up. Whereas if you're in a Big 12 or, you're in the G5, one loss, can tank your season in a way.
Yeah. And 10 wins cannot undo
that.
Right.
Because those are going to be weighted less,
Yes.
There's just, you're putting a ceiling on especially those G5 teams, how far they can move.
So Heather Dinich continues and says, the record strength will help the committee determine how teams perform against their schedule, rewarding those beating high-quality opponents while minimizing the penalty of losing to one of those high-quality opponents. These changes will also provide minimal reward for beating low-quality opponents while imposing a greater penalty for losing to one. Historically, the selection committee typically has evaluated in this manner, but adding it to a computerized metric should help codify the process publicly. It could also incentivize athletic directors to continue to schedule marquee matchups between blue blood programs without fear of being penalized for a loss in the committee meeting room. Okay, so this is where I have a problem. There's a lot that goes into that. Number one, who likes that? ESPN. Because guess what? The bigger earlier season games, that is great. That is fantastic. Also, this, you don't lose any of the conference games that you're going to have in the season, which are already going to be really good games anyway, too. So you're going to end up getting more games, which TV networks like, more big money games. The problem is that this further consolidates college football to where, like, as you said, Jack, these resumes will be harder to be. It's like, man, that's the best 8-4 I've ever seen. It's like, okay, but what is, and look, we've already NFL'd it a little bit this year, right? I mean, we had 2 teams last year, in the Indiana and Ohio State, who were not in their conference championship game and they were playing in the playoff, and Ohio State didn't even play and won the championship. So, I mean, it's not, what I'm saying is just because you lose games does not make you bad, but this is going to skew towards the bigger conferences, right? It really is going to skew towards the bigger conferences. And, I'm not sure. Let's see. Last year, last team in was SMU, they the last team in?
They got in over Alabama and South Carolina. And so
then also, and I like to tuck Miami in there too, because the reason why I throw Miami in there is that, if we're going the whole TV product route, like Miami we knew exactly what Miami was, right? I mean, they were a great offensive team with no defense, and I thought they were a lot more fun to watch. And their 2 losses were somewhat close, but like, I don't know how to square this, because in the end, it's still a committee making the choices, so it's a group of people. So, do you think this? I'm not going to say drastically changes, but do you think this changes anything at all?
No, only because we've already kind of seen the results. Like last year, you saw conversations where it was, can a 9-3 Alabama make it in over a 10-2 SMU? The question was, when you go up the rankings, like Texas was getting put in front of a Boise State. Like we already were seeing the committee make decisions based on this type of metric. The only difference is now they can have a number whenever they go on TV and say, our metric says this is their strength of record. We can point to a number and say, this is why we are doing this. And it kind of adds validity to that argument beyond just saying, oh, well, we think that their schedule is tougher, and that is why we are making this decision. So do I think it'll change necessarily the way things are done? No. Do I think it'll change the outcome of the decisions that are made? No. But I think it's the whole idea is that we're trying to provide validity to those arguments from a mathematical or something that quote unquote cannot be denied.
Well, the problem, this changes things, right? Because the issue that we have, like, if we're going to say now the rankings are even stronger, right? Codifying, we're adding more validity. These are still people that will just chuck teams in the rankings to make better TV matchups. So it's like, we just want to make sure somebody has 24 by their name when they play the number 10 team in the country. But that in some ways is going to inflate the quality. So my question is that, are we going to say the ranking is a reflection of this now stronger system? Or is the ranking going to be still, something that we objectively pick, and then people will point to after the fact, say, what a great win, when, some numbers like S&P Plus or, other places, FPI might say otherwise.
Well, and that's the thing is that, like, when I look at it, I see it as almost like a self-fulfilling system.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It really is.
It's the idea that this team is good because they beat good teams, this team is not bad because they did not lose to bad teams. And there is no real way to come back at that and without trying to say, oh, well, the eye test, or, oh, well, you've seen these teams play, there's no real level playing field to base things on. And so whenever you say, oh, this team looked really good against a team that was ranked whatever, like I was saying earlier, it kind of piles on itself, because if I look at it's a team that's ranked high but isn't actually very good,
right,
they won't get penalized and I'll get super rewarded, and at the end of the day nothing really moves.
Yeah, I think we were there anyway. I think there's going to be more. I mean, we're heading towards a larger playoff, and I can't wait for the debate for the 24th spot. I mean, it's going to be electrifying. I mean, we're going to be haggling over.
Virginia Tech's got a chance, Josh.
We're going to be haggling over some loose change, if you will, right? I mean, we're going to be talking about dimes and nickels. I mean, it's really, I think that conversation we'll save it for another day. But where this thing goes, because was there a 2018 model that was kicked around?
I haven't seen that.
I swear to you, I thought we were going 16. Like everybody was like, "Here we come, 16." And they're like, "No," and then they stopped. And then I saw 24. I mean, 24. I mean, what are we doing at 24? Like, what is really we're still going to play a championship game?
Conference championship? We're going to be playing football in March.
Are we still going to play a conference championship game at 24?
I don't see how you do. I don't see
triple bye.
I don't know who would want it at that point, but
I know I can give you 4 letters, 3 letters, 3 letters, 3 letters. Let's see, it's ESPN, CBS, NBC, and Fox. Yeah. I would love to see that. Oh, and 2 letters, the CW.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll do some Auburn.
Sure.
All right, let's do it. Auburn. WTF, Auburn. So, Jack, I guess we have to back up to when they can Harsin and they hire Hugh Freeze. And it even makes me look back and think like, man, did they have it really good with Gus? Like, should they just kept Gus? Like, I mean, I thought they should have kept Gus. Can he improve? Like, I mean, I would put the heat on him, but like, he was really good there. Auburn, to me, Auburn's the toughest job in America. Full stop. Your two biggest rivals in state, you got Alabama, and my buddy Cole, lifelong Auburn fan. I mean, to be honest, the one he hates more is Georgia. And then what's the South's oldest rivalry? That's what it's called, I believe. The Deep South's oldest rivalry. One's been a hammer, and one recently just became the Hammer 2.0. And Auburn's got the ability to compete. And now they've got 9 national titles because they've just claimed another 4. So they go Harsin, and obviously for a variety of reasons that was not a good fit. They bring Hugh Freeze in, and really the entire build is towards 2025. I didn't think they had to be terrible last year, but for some reason they're like, you know what? And look, like not Peyton Thorne's like the worst quarterback I've ever seen, but we knew Peyton Thorne wasn't very good. You know why? Because Peyton Thorne played a lot and he wasn't very good. Like, and it wasn't like he demonstrated some absurd athleticism that justified him playing. And they still chucked him out there. And then this year rolls around, and man, if you like, Dylan Gabriel goes to Oregon, right, to make way for Jackson Arnold. And it didn't work out for Jackson Arnold last year. And then Jackson Arnold moves on because Brent Venables needs to save his job, and he's like, hey, it can't be a project. Even if you are a 5-star, I'm going to go get a coach and his quarterback, which I think is a smart move. And then you get Auburn taking him, which is like, I thought we were building towards this year, and then you get a quarterback, the most important position, who hasn't shown anything demonstrably.
He's a project who feels like maybe not this year, maybe next year. You know, he feels
he might not be good at all. And then you see, you're like, okay, well maybe Hugh Freeze will be fine, and it's gonna be okay. And you get the video of practice the other day, and you get these comments from Hugh Freeze where it's like, even if things aren't going well, put out in public. He goes, I think he's like, I might play quarterback. I mean, he's got no answers. And his performance last year did not show somebody like, we cover Arkansas, like Bobby Petrino, where it's like, hey, that old system still works, right? And he's just coaching offense, and it's a little bit different. But that old thing, it's still a thing. It still works. Arkansas, one of the most productive 20 to 20 offenses. Yes. And so, Jack, what is your read? Because I'm seeing a lot of, it's like, get your jokes in now, but like, I mean, if their quarterback play is like last year, they're not going to be much better, right?
Well, the thing is that you go and you read from the people who are covering Auburn Day, and now this is fall camp, and you and I, we talked about it a little bit, is that there is sort of the cycle of like every week or every day you get a new position group that you think is now the best in the world after hearing these coaches talk about it. Like there is a bit of that, but when you read, it seems like, all right, defensive line should be really strong. Secondary is really strong. This may be the receiver room, may be the best on the team, and you have a lot of other pieces with Auburn that are really seem primed. Like you said, this is what they were building for. But if the quarterback position isn't there, it's like you read it, it's like they've got this, and then they get to quarterback, and it's like, I don't know, and I don't know how far you can go if your quarterback position is like that.
I'm not a Hugh Freeze guy. I mean, he's a good coach. Like, don't get me wrong, because like even though he cheated I put in parentheses at Ole Miss, like they nailed the recruiting. I mean, they did a really good job building that football team. I think it was Bo Wallace, the team that was number 1, and he was a really good coach at Liberty too. They beat a lot of Power 5 teams. They have a lot of money there too. But I mean, he was a decent coach. I haven't seen anything in this run that gives me the idea that he is still like some offensively innovative coach, because this was the concept I think Bud Elliott mentioned about Belichick is like, the reason why you would hire Bill Belichick or any coach at all like that is that he does something different or innovative. Plus he brings, whatever cachet he's got. And like Bill Belichick's not really like changing the game anymore. So it's like, has Carolina gained any schematic advantage? Like, I guess we'll see, but like, I really don't think the answer is yes. the answer was more yes for Hugh Freeze at Auburn, I feel like. But, like he might have got ideas. He can't apparently assemble the talent to give us any idea of whether they're any better, right? Because it's just we're not seeing that. And look, their hammer is gone. I mean, we think they could be good at running back, but Jarquez Hunter is gone. And Peyton Thorne was the second leading rusher last year. And I know they like the roster. I know. And their defense will probably be good. I mean, Auburn defenses are like usually really, really salty, especially up front. But man, they've got some stuff to sort out here.
Well, and then you look at it and you're like, all right, hey, coaching staff, like let's get really excited about that group. And then Hugh Freeze comes out and it's like, yeah, we got one guy calling plays on first down, another guy calling plays on second down, another guy calling plays on third down. It's like there's just doesn't seem like we talk about it a lot with Arkansas, Josh. It's like this idea of what's the identity of this team.
Yeah,
it almost seems like we're throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. And I don't think that's a recipe for success.
It's like a summer camp. It's like, you get a series, you get to go out there and play, you get to play, go to all the positions, whatever. And it begs the question, the big picture thing is here. Is it okay to build for one season? Like we were talking about this on the radio show I was working today. You really want to do what Kansas State does. And I know it's not possible everywhere, but like you want to be at 7 to 9 every single year and pop hard and go 10, 11, 12 if you can. 1 year, especially now in the CFP era, right? You want to live at 7, live at 8, live at 9, and pop to 10, 11, 12. And I know not every program can do that, but like it almost seems like lightning in the bottle is the best way to kind of do it, right? Yeah. Like you kind of need to strike like Indiana last year.
If your goal is to hit that peak, hit that college football playoff level, get to that point, like you need. First of all, I mean, there's a lot of luck involved in just being successful in football, whether it's injury luck or, having a player who has a breakout year that you didn't expect. Like you need that to hit that level. And so like there is something to be said about building a consistent foundation to where you're at a position where if someone pops, it takes you to that level. And I think that so often, you see teams trying to build for this 1 year. And I feel like that's almost more of a high school thing that I hear a lot is like, we've got this really great senior class, because it's so hard to build for 1 year just with the portal, with how things shake out. You can't really predict the future enough to know that you'll be in that spot. So you almost just need for everything to kind of align at one point. I think Clemson may be at that point this year.
Yeah. Auburn should be good enough to be able to be decent every year. The level of talent that Auburn gets every season, there's no reason that they should be like, well, it cost us a couple 5 and 7s so we can get to that. Like we got to save our pennies, we got penny pinch in the roster.
Yes, but no, because the thing is that like, and we talk about it with Arkansas, it's like you can be a top 25 team and still not make a bowl game,
right?
Because of the schedule that Auburn plays every year. Like it's not like they are, in the Big 12. One thing that you'll see a lot, and we've seen the last 3 years, is that a team picked 10th can kind of do that whole catch lightning in a bottle and jump up really quickly.
But it's because the conference is so much more even.
Because the gap from 10 to 1 is not nearly as big as the gap from 10 to 1 in the SEC. And so, you can be a good team and still lose to Alabama and Georgia and those big rivals that Auburn has. They're not playing LSU this year, but there's another team that's a typical rival that's
America's strangest game,
national championship. So it's at this point where it's like, yes, you don't think Auburn should be a 5 and 7 team, but are there 7 teams on their schedule that are better than them? Maybe.
It also begs this question too about week 1. Is there a team with more to lose than Auburn in week 1?
I do not know, because
they go to Baylor.
Well, and it's a tough opening week game against a team that theoretically is going to be one of the contenders in the Big 12, who's got a starting quarterback that everybody believes in. Like it's
an experienced coach. I know he hasn't always been good, but an experienced defensive-minded coach.
And so the question, I would a week ago, I would have said no. Auburn can lose that game; things will be fine. But we talk about it so much. This is a vibes-based sport, and the vibes are very not good right now on the Plains. And if you open up week 1 with a loss there, then suddenly it stops going from, ooh, this could be a 9-win team that could be pushing for a playoff spot, to we may not win an SEC game.
Yeah. Well, and the only other candidate I would say is the Iowa State Kansas State game, just by virtue of that those two teams have designs on competing for a Big 12 championship, and this game is going to have an impact on the race. Either whether it's tiebreaker, either whether it's the one early game. I mean, these two teams play late in the year, and also they've both played for a Big 12 championship, relatively recently. So like these are well coached, good teams with good quarterbacks. They think they have good rosters. Like that game has stakes, and I think that's why the Big 12 wanted it there. And I like that. I actually like that idea because people are like, "Why is this game here?" I love that game being there here in week 0. But I mean, it's hard, Jack, to find. Like once again, you can recover from a loss to Baylor, but like if Hugh Freeze starts this off, and especially if the offense looks bad, and it's a like the issue I have is that you saw this coming with the quarterbacks. And maybe they have one emerge. Maybe they win 9-10 games. But if you take into context the last 2 years Hugh Freeze has had, and you add what we're seeing this offseason, what he's saying, don't you think it follows a pattern as a whole? And they could break the pattern. That's possible. But it doesn't seem like it's trending in a positive direction.
Well, and the fear for me, or the thing that's interesting for me in this, is that we talk about building for this year and having the roster be ready this year. Where is the quarterback that's supposed to be? It feels like for Hugh Freeze, that would have been the number one. We're going to spend money. We're going to invest in that as the leader of this team, that when we think we're going to be good, we're going to be good in that position. And last year, it's like Peyton Thorne, that was your answer. This year, Jackson Arnold, that's your answer. And maybe, like we said, maybe it happens, but it feels like somewhere along the line of this grand plan, the ball got dropped.
Yeah, I mean, they've also got Ashton Daniels as backup, and they also have the freshman kid Deuce Knight. I mean, you think he might be good, but like I don't want to put the kid back in there. Yeah. And at Baylor at night, like I don't think that's the best place to have your first game. So they're in that spot, and I just think they're an interesting case study for like how should teams build. It's funny. Because I talked about Kansas this past week with the massive gift they got. And like, I was kind of asking, like, is Kansas football the blueprint for how to build a program now? I mean, especially if you're a majority of teams that you're not in, for teams that are not in the upper weight classes, for the Kentuckys and the Arkansas and the Missouris and the Iowa States, like Kansas they didn't find a guy like Les Miles who could get them better talent, because he did. They found a guy who's like, I always squeeze the most out of my talent. And I know how to manage games. I know how to make sure that if we punch up a weight class, we do the best we can to make it competitive. And he has won at Kansas in a way that is uncommon. Well, and retain talent too.
I think of Dan Mullen at Mississippi State. Like the thing with Dan Mullen was he was one of those coaches that could take a lower level program and elevate it to where it's competitive in those big situations. They weren't going to win a national championship, but they were a lot better than where you think and where we've seen historically and currently Mississippi State exists in this ecosystem. So Dan Mullen is one of those coaches, but then he goes to Florida, and that same style doesn't necessarily translate when you're in the place where you should have all the talent and you should have like culturally, it doesn't always translate. And so, it works at Kansas to say, hey, we're going to take these 2-star guys, these 3-star guys, and try to convert them into a team that can compete at the next level. It doesn't always translate to a place where you want to get 4- and 5-star guys, and that has historically gotten those guys. Like the culture doesn't always move over to that level.
Right.
And so, I also would push back a little bit on Kansas being the blueprint, just because I think a lot of the narrative around Kansas is, oh, here's this historically awful team, and now they're competing for a bowl game. And that's a big accomplishment for those programs.
Well, but from where they're consistently like, and the thing is, I go back to that first season, they were getting nuked. And then at the end of the year, they were more competitive in games. Then they take the step up. And the thing to me, Jack, the difference was they won 9 games in a year where they lost their starting quarterback. If I tell you usually a Kansas starting quarterback goes down, you're like, that's maybe the worst team in all of FBS. right? So the fact they've got a coach who's been able to build depth quickly to the point where they can compete is what I'm talking about. And they've retained guys that other schools definitely wanted. Devin Neal was a guy other schools definitely wanted. Jalen Daniels, for sure, a guy, you can go down to Lassiter and the guys they had tight end. I mean, even the corners, a guy like Jacoby Bryant. I mean, they had guys other teams wanted. They were able to maintain. So I'm just saying not from a pure results standpoint, but the fact that you're getting these massive gifts and that they're upgrading facilities so they can stay competitive. They've got a guy who's clearly got an idea of what he's doing, but he's not flashy. Like the most flash he shows is when he just gets pissed off in a press conference and he's like, how much are the referees doing today? I'm like, yes, Lance, get their ass. But I'm just saying you don't have to be all flash to start to build. And I'm not to knock Kenny Dillingham, but Kenny Dillingham's more about the flash, right? Lance Leipold is more about the substance in terms of like, hey, I'm about like what we can do to make this thing, as good as it is, and build kind of such a solid foundation. Because we don't know about Kenny Dillingham yet, but like that was a comment last year.
Yeah. Well, and it's that we talk about it's kind of the two different ways of building a program of like, Kenny Dillingham caught that lightning in a bottle last year, got it, right. In Camp Scadaboo, who like took off and had a season that no one was expecting. Sam Levitt developed into one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Like, there's this idea that sometimes it just takes, luck, for lack of a better word, to get to that level. And so, but you have to be ready for your moment. And that's where Kansas is developing to that point where they're ready for that moment if the pieces align. They're in a position where your lightning in a bottle isn't 7 wins.
Right.
Your lightning in a bottle is higher.
Yeah. All right, let's go really quickly. Week 0, let's ride. Let's do it. We made it to college football season. Farmageddon, obviously, really, I find it very compelling. I think there's no doubt that this is my favorite game they played to start the year. It is. People are like, today it's a rivalry. I'm like, yes, this is a big rivalry. These are two teams that are very similar programs. They have been known for their talent development is their strength. Matt Campbell, 5-star culture. Obviously, we've seen Kansas State for years. They're always about doing more with less. And there are stakes. There are college football playoff implications in this game because it's a conference game between two teams that have designs on winning the conference. Avery Johnson, to me, is the big question. This kid was supposed to be a star. He has got star speed, and he is one of those good examples, Jack, of like, hey, it doesn't always just happen for you immediately at once, right? I mean, it is natural for him to take this developmental course, but now he is going to be in a situation where it is. Let's see, I think for him, he's a junior technically, yes, and for him, he's played now a decent amount of football. 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions last year, ran for 605. This I think is the year we see how good this kid can be.
Well, and that's the question is, how do you develop from an athlete into a quarterback? Kind of this idea of like, a lot of your freshman year, just across the board, whether we're talking about him or any quarterback, is you kind of rely on your athleticism and learn the game. And now it's at a point where theoretically year 2, you've gotten the chance to learn the offense. You've gotten the chance to develop yourself within the system. And now's when everything, the hay's in the barn, you got to, at this point, to take out that reward. And so he's one of the quarterbacks across the country that I'm most intrigued in because he showed so many flashes of brilliance, but it wasn't always consistent. And so the question is, can you figure out how to every play, every down, be locked in the way you were at points last season? And
like Rocco Beck's good, like really good, but he's not anywhere physically as gifted as Avery Johnson is. And so that's why, this is not disrespect Rocco, but like you want to see, okay, can Avery make good on kind of the physical gifts? Another guy, Another guy in the week 0. I mean, Jalen Daniels is still at Kansas, and a big part of that is because of how injured he has been. And I really hope for his sake, and he was able to get back a lot last year, but now I can't wait to see the version of him we get this year at KU because I hope he can stay on the field. But when he's at his best, he is a dynamic player, and so the big key is can they keep it that way? Because I think KU likes their team, but just from a fan standpoint, it's another guy that we have a chance to see this week. One of 2 Big 12 teams going ahead, so he's one of those guys where it's like, just please God keep him on the field, right? I mean that's all we want as fans.
Well, It's just the Big 12 is so fun top to bottom. It is every year. It's so underrated as a conference just in terms of how fun it is. There's going to be a team that you think is going to finish last that's going to finish in the top 3. There's a team that's picked to finish first that's going to finish in the bottom 5. That's just how this conference has worked.
And Texas Tech will be 7-5 as they always are.
Yeah, somehow that'll always shake out. No, but there are so many. Between Avery Rocco, Jalen Daniels, Sawyer,
Sam Levitt.
There are so many older, experienced quarterbacks that have shown flashes of being really good.
Yeah,
and it's like, who can put it together for a whole year?
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the Big 12 as a whole, but Kansas especially.
All right, Jack, I get you out of here. You got to talk to our guy Shahan Jayaraja coming up here in a second. So where can the folks find you and your work and all of its variety?
We are on KATV Channel 7 if you live in the great state of Arkansas. If not, find us online, KATV.com. The Hog Central podcast is coming up soon if you want to know more Arkansas football. That'll be on all your podcast platforms everywhere. And we have a big Razorback special coming up next week, so it'll be fun.
All right, hardest working man in show business, Jack Allen. See you next week.